All right, today we're previewing the Cleveland Browns 2025 season. We are covering each team one a day here in the morning show. So if you haven't caught us live, come check us live 4:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Wherever you watch, all the links are right down there, or my handles are right down there, wherever you prefer to watch from. We prefer to see you over on Rumble, of course. Game on show over on Rumble. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is a depressing chapter. Which probably comes to no surprise to any of you, but even Warren Sharp, we're reacting to Warren Sharp's outlook and preview. So we'll go through this and we're doing a reaction to it. Some of the key points he points out, I'll talk about, agree or disagree with, of course. A lot of good information in this book. If you haven't checked it out, you should go to Warren Sharp's page and go get his book. You can get the digital version or an actual physical hard copy. We're betting on sports this year, betting on the NFL, you're going to want this resource. I don't get paid to say that. I don't get anything from sending you there to go get purchased. It's just a great tool that I think everyone should use. But the Cleveland Browns, not much to say about the Browns. They're terrible. They're obviously we know their big issue is the Deshaun Watson deal, one of the worst trades in NFL history, and they're still paying for it. They were able to restructure a lot of his salary cap this year, but next year it's going to be a huge hit. And they've got 5 quarterbacks on their roster now, not counting Watson. Embarrassing, but they were 3-14 last year, and they're in a complete rebuild mode. This is Kevin Stefanski's 6th season. They got a new offensive coordinator coming into the season, Tommy Rees. Jim Schwartz is going to year 3 with his defense. The defense is the only nice thing about this team, but unfortunately, I don't think, as much as defenses are important, I don't think a defense is going to win the Browns a championship this year. They have the toughest schedule, as you can see here. They have the toughest schedule through the first 4 weeks. I think if you're in one of those betting markets where you want to bet which team will be the last defeated team remaining, there's a good case that's going to be the Cleveland Browns. They could start the season 0-8. Probably won't, but they could. The Browns are only favored in one game this season, and that's home against the Titans. They're only favored so far in one game. That's embarrassing. Sorry, Buku. That's embarrassing. But they don't have any primetime games this year, other than, I guess, if you count the international game, because it is a standalone game, but they got an international game week 5 against Minnesota. So think about this. They go through this brutal first 4 weeks where they're playing they're playing Cincy, Baltimore, Green Bay, and Detroit. You go through that gauntlet, and then you got to hop on a bird and go over to Europe and play the Vikings. Then you got to come back home and play Pittsburgh after that. Not great. Not great. When it comes to rest advantage and disadvantage, they got 3 games where they have a rest advantage against their opponents. Only a 1 day on all of those. But they also have they have 2 games where they're at a rest disadvantage. 3-day rest disadvantage against Green Bay, and then a 7-day rest disadvantage. Get this. So not only you have to play this brutal schedule, then you got to fly over to Europe and play the Vikings. But then when you come back home, you got to go on the road to Pittsburgh, a divisional opponent, and play in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh's going to be coming off a bye. So you not only did you play overseas, but the opponent, and then you have to play on the road against a divisional opponent. But your divisional opponent's coming off a bye. Not great. Not great. Some of the key players they lost over the offseason: James Hudson, right tackle, he gone. Jedrick Willis, left tackle, he's gone. Obviously, Jameis Winston is with the Giants now. Mike Ford is with the Falcons. Elijah Moore went to the Bills. You got Nick Harris, Nick Chubb, Jordan Atkins, Maurice Hurts, Nyheim Hines. They're all gone. Charlie Hewitt is with the Eagles now. And all those other guys that they ended up losing. Bailey Zappi's a Chief. I didn't realize Bailey Zappi was a Chief until I saw him in the preseason. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I knew Minshew was. What up, Pudge? Pudge is in the house. How we doing, buddy? Happy late birthday, dude. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Just dropping in for a sec. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it, my man. Dude, cheerleaders are gay. They are very gay. They're very gay. I don't want to be a Patriot fan anymore. I don't. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That's awesome. Some key free agents and that they in trades they made over this offseason. They got Joe Tyrone Shoyinka, an edge rusher. They signed Joe Flacco, who's going to be their starting QB. You can get Joe Flacco still at 80 cents to be the starting QB. Joe Flacco is going to be starting week 1. So that's like free money over on Kalshi. They traded for Kenny Pickett and then a bunch of other guys they got there. Now, they drafted exactly how you think the Browns would draft. They just were like, you know what? We're gonna beef up our defense even more, and then we're gonna take some needs on the offensive side of the ball. So they take with the 5th over. Now they had the number 2 overall pick. Remember, they traded that out, which was a good move by them. They traded back a few spots with Jacksonville and picked up Jacksonville's first round pick next year. So they got a first rounder to trade back, and they still got a good player in defensive tackle Mason Graham, who's going to be a automatic day 1 starter. So that's a good pick by them. They had 2 picks. They actually had the most the best draft capital this season. So they got that going for them, or for this past draft. But we've seen that before. The Browns had a stretch. I can't remember the years. We'll look at it in here, where they had the best draft capital, and they just blow it. But in the second round, they had 2 picks. They took linebacker Carson Schwezger out of UCLA. And they took a running back, Quinshawn Junkins, out of Ohio State. Third round, they took tight end Harold Fannin out of Bowling Green. And they took QB Dylan Gabriel. So they signed 2 QBs in the offseason, and Joe Flacco can pick. Then they draft QB Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. Then they took another running back, Dylan Sampson, out of Tennessee. So they got a couple of young running backs to pair up with Jerome Ford. And then the shock to everyone, because now they have 4 quarterbacks on their roster. One, obviously, Deshaun Watson not playing. They take in the 5th round QB to Shedeur Sanders, who is already a preseason Hall of Famer for the Browns. So some say that's the best pick they've ever made. We'll see. But I'm telling you, I'm giving you a warning. This chapter gets real depressing. Because I don't know who it was, but someone said every year there are about 8 teams that have a realistic chance to win the Super Bowl, and that's correct. That is correct. There's about 8 teams. We all know the 8 teams. We all can pretty much pick who the AFC champion, who the AFC matchups, or not the AFC, the conference championship matchups are going to be. Albeit there's some shocker years, like no one had Washington make it to the NFC championship last year, right? A lot of people probably had Eagles and 49ers before the season started. But I've been watching football for decades and can't remember when the Cleveland Browns were in the group of teams that you realistically thought could win the Super Bowl. The Browns are a depressing team to address in this book like this, because so much of what I love to provide to you is unpacking the prior season. You sort of remember some of these teams, and there's a media narrative about them, but I try to unpeel the onion layer by layer and really show you what happened last year and why I expect it will either continue or look different. But Warren Sharp goes on to say, I'm not going to waste your time talking about last year, because last year was atrocious. They were an 8.5. They were projected, their win total was at 8.5, and they ended up winning just 3 games. Embarrassing. This was it in a nutshell from last year. Quarterback X played this week and has been bad, but then he was hurt. So quarterback Y made the next 2 starts and he was bad. So they went back to quarterback X, but then they had a season injury. He had a season-ending injury, so they went back to quarterback Z, and he was also bad. That was their 23 season. They had 11 different quarterback. They had 11 quarterback changes in the 23 season. Then last year, Deshaun Watson came out and played for the first, 7 weeks or so. And obviously, there's all his stats. We all know Deshaun Watson was not good. Not good. The Browns were started the season off 1-5 before Watson tore his Achilles in Week 7's game. But unlike last year, Sharp's not going to go through the 7 weeks in detail. He's not going to go through telling you about DTR, Jameis Winston, Bailey Zappi, who's not on the team anymore. And then they find themselves they got 4 quarterbacks this season. And we still don't know what the Browns are going to do with all these quarterbacks. This year, the Browns are just favored in 1 game, and they're expected to win. Their season win total is 4.5. I'll tell you now, go under. Go under. I don't think the Browns want to win games. You can take an alt under 2.5. I think you do that. I think the Saints and the Browns go under 2.5. Get you some plus money on that. Embarrassing. But yeah, as you can see, look at it. They're not favored in any. Look at these games that they start off the season: 5.5 point dog, 12.5 point dog, 5.5 point dog, 10.5 point dog, 7 point dog, 6.5 point dog. Only a 1.5 point dog to the Dolphins. 5.5 point dog to the Patriots. They aren't favored until week 14. They're a 1.5 point favorite at home against Tennessee. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. It's hard to win games when you have bad quarterbacks, but it's even harder to win games when your cap is being held hostage by a bad quarterback who's not playing for you. And this is where we get into the Deshaun Watson stuff. Watson was a $36 million cap hit this year, which it's only $36 million because the Browns restructured his deal and converted $45 million into salary as a signing bonus. So they were able to spread that money around. But next year's cap hit is $81 million. $81 million for a guy that they don't even want on the team. Remember, ownership came out and talked. Even ownership said that was the worst trade in NFL history. You know how wild that is to talk about it being the worst trade in NFL history as the guy you traded for is still on your team and you owe $131 million to still? And his contract was fully guaranteed. They were one of the first people to make one of these big quarterback salaries fully guaranteed. $230 million fully guaranteed. Oh, not good. Is not good. But check this out. So the Browns draft capital in 2024 was the last in the league. They had like nothing. They had nothing. But this year they had the number one draft capital, and I think they used it fairly wisely. I mean, they took a shot at some quarterbacks. You have to when you don't have a quarterback. Got a couple of young running backs, and they beefed up continue to beef up their defense. So not much else they could have done in that spot. And one of the best things they did was getting a first-round pick. They traded away the number 2 overall pick to land an extra first-round pick next year from Jacksonville. So they got 2 first-round picks next year. They should just trade away those 2 first-round picks to someone that will take Deshaun Watson contract. They now have multiple first-round picks to go with their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 3 7th-round picks next year. And I mean, who knows what else they'll add going forward. The Browns aren't a dumb organization. That is debatable. But they know the most important position in football is quarterback. That's why they're willing to take such a gamble on Watson. They risk looking like idiots for a chance to change the trajectory of their franchise. Obviously, they lost that gamble. Judkins is the only one of those 4 currently slated to start for the Browns, and he will have to compete with Jerome Ford for that role out of their draft picks that they took at the top of the draft. Here we go into why you should bet under 4.5 wins. I say 2.5 wins for the Cleveland Browns. Mighty Megatron, good morning. Says Cleveland is where quarterbacks go to die. That's true. The Browns have been dealt an abysmal schedule that projects as the 2nd hardest in the league. Much of that is due to being in the AFC North and 3 teams securing winning records last season. Cleveland will also face Packers, Lions, Vikings, and Bills this year. Good news is they faced a similarly hard schedule in 2024. It will likely be another rough season for the franchise. To make matters worse for the Browns, they ranked bottom 5 in the rest advantage for the upcoming season. Not only will the teams be facing some of the toughest teams, but they will be doing it without substantial time to recover. There's some optimism with Dale and Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, but the quarterback room is still a question mark in Cleveland. The 2 rookies who were drafted in the 3rd and 5th rounds will compete with Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett for the starting spot. It is an unimpressive group unless an unlikely star emerges. Not great. But if you are like Buku and optimistic on the season, here's why you should bet over 4.5 wins for the Browns. Browns had 9.5 fewer touchdowns than expected based on yards and red zone trips last season. This implies that their offense was better than advertised and could see improvements, but the quarterback issue that led to that disappointing output remained. The team has some talent on the offense, but they need some stability at quarterback to put it together. Injuries were a big factor for Cleveland last season. At the quarterback, they were struggled to stay healthy on the offensive, and they struggled to stay healthy on the offensive line. Wyatt Tettler and Jack Conklin both missed significant time, and Joel Bitonio was the only lineman who started 17 games. Better injury luck and some stability could benefit and lead to more wins. The NFL draft and free agency helped Cleveland secure a lot of talent for the upcoming season. The team selected Mason Graham with the number 5 overall pick. He'll be an impact player, joining newcomer Malik Collins on the defensive line. Carson Schweisinger was drafted in the 2nd round to help the linebackers. There's also the chance that Shedeur Sanders wins the quarterback job and fulfills his potential after sliding to the 5th round. That's not going to happen. That's getting way too optimistic there. Check this out. When Jerome Ford was not hit in the backfield, he gained 7.3 yards per carry. Only Derrick Henry was better. So, I mean, if Cleveland can figure out their offensive line, they got a good back. I mean, they drafted a couple of young backs this season, but they also, Jerome Ford's a good back. Good back there. The Browns are likely to struggle again as they did in 24, and they'll be back picking near the top of the draft next season. And the quarterback class certainly looks a lot better next year, so maybe that's what they're going to do. So why exactly do the Browns, what are they looking to do this season? If their number one goal is to ensure that they have a franchise quarterback of the future, we already know that the player is not currently on this team. It's not Joe Flacco. It's not Kenny Pickett. Probably not going to be Gabriel or Sanders. There's a reasonable possibility that the Browns don't care if they win in 25. I would say so. One thing that the Browns need to change this year, if they do want to win games, is they need to change early down efficiency. This is how they ranked on first down last year. They were last or in the bottom 3 in EPA per pass success rate, yards per attempt, first down per pass, all these metrics. They were terrible. And all these charts show it. Look at, you don't want to see a lot of red over here in this chart. And there's a lot of red. No matter what the Browns tried to do, pass or run, they were terrible on first down. As a result of being horrific on first down, they had the longest distance to go on third down. Grass Guy says they drafted a beast of a running back. They sure did. And I like that guy out of Tennessee as well. There's a bunch of stats here telling you how they're terrible. We don't need to go through all of them. But they need to start making things simpler and be more efficient on first down, one step at a time, because you can't fix everything all at once. If you read me for a while, you know how critically I approach the first half of games. If you flip to the second to last page of this chapter, you can look at the section called Offensive Efficiency and Tendency Research. Headings 4 through 13 relate to the first half efficiency and a variety of stats, including efficiency, all that stuff. Okay. The Browns ranked dead last in all of them, other than first half early down run efficiency, where they ranked 31st, so second to last. In red zone efficiency, they were ranked number 27. We know that the quarterbacks were terrible, but the receivers didn't do them any favors, ranking 31 in on-target catch rate and 30 in drop rate. If the Browns are going to try to play it by ear and see how things go during the season from a win-loss perspective to determine their late season strategy, it's going to be tough to stack wins early in the season. The Browns have the number one hardest schedule from weeks 1 through 4, and no other team is close. I mean, they Bengals, Ravens, Packers, Lions. That's brutal. Bet under in the Brown games. Bet under Browns team total. That's what you do in those games. So if the Browns struggle in the opening month, they'll have to get out of that spiral in London. They got to fly to London and take on Brian Flores' Vikings defense, followed by a road game in Pittsburgh, where they're 3-31 since 1990 and have lost 21 of their last 22 in Pittsburgh. That's not great. Bottom line is the season could go off the rails before it even gets started, but from week 6 through the end of the season, the 3 toughest opponents the Browns face, Ravens, Bills, and Niners, are all home games. And during that span, the Browns played the number 5 easiest schedule of road opponents, which, while several of those teams don't have great offenses, that's not the case for most of the season. The Cleveland defense will play the NFL's number 1 toughest schedule of offenses. This defense played really well overall last year, considering how bad the spot the offense continued to put them in. While they rank number 5 in overall defense, number 6 in early downs, they rank number 30 against explosive passes, number 31 against explosive runs. Ugh. That's not good. I told you, this chapter is depressing. Very depressing. For fantasy advice, should you draft anyone? We talked about this earlier, but Jerry Jeudy is when you look at like projected players, the first person to come off the board from the Browns is Jerry Jeudy, but that's not until the late 60s on average. So we're talking 6th round or later in a draft. Then Quinshon Judkins is up next at number 75. I don't think you can really take much of those guys. I don't think you can taking. Look at all this. Look at all that red. You don't want that red on there. David Njoku and Jerry Jeudy were the most targeted players targeted in the red zone when the rare time Browns actually made it to the red zone. They have the second toughest schedule of the season, right there with Grass Guys Giants. That's not good. This season isn't about winning a Super Bowl. It's about winning. It isn't about winning the division. It might not even be about winning 5 games. The season is about sorting through the wreckage and figuring out if anything can still be built. Maybe it's Dylan Gabriel. Maybe it's Shedeur Sanders. Maybe it's a 2026 draft pick, not yet on the roster. That's the mission now. Find the guy, because until they do, all the Myles Garrett dominance, all the draft capital in the world won't matter. And also, it's like, dude, they paid Myles Garrett $40 million a year in an extension. They paid him like they're trying to win now, but this team is not trying to win now. Nothing that we went through here shows you that they're even if they want to win, they can't. They got to change things up. I think Stefanski's going to be gone after the season too, which is crazy. Former coach of the year. The Browns are finally leaning into a rebuild, even if they won't say it out loud. They moved out of the number 2 overall pick. They stacked future assets, and they drafted for long-term upside, not week 1 production. That's another thing. All their draft capital this year, I mean, other than Graham, who will be playing, but he'll be a rookie out there, they were building for the future, not guys who are going to help in week 1 this season. That's not apathy. That's acknowledgement. The journey back starts by being honest about where you are. For the Browns, that means climbing out of the hole they dug, 1 first down at a time. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Bottom line, their defense is going to play great, but they got a tough schedule. They need to get better they need to stay healthy. They need to hope their offensive line steps up, and they just need to be better on first down. You do that, it'll be a successful season. Meaning, yeah, you might only win a few games, but at least you're building something. You see what you got. Oh, I agree. I think the Giants will have more wins than the Browns. But there you have it. That's your Cleveland Browns. Very depressing 2025 preview, like I said. You can catch us live. We cover a team every day. I clip this out and post it as a standalone for people who want to catch up and who might have missed it and want to see who we previewed. But yeah, depressing if you're a Browns fan. But, I think you already know that. Catch us on the next stream.